Hey there, welcome to another episode of The Leadership Edge. I am Joe Glazer, bringing you this weekly podcast where we talk about all things leadership. So, I kind of want to start off with a little bit of a story of humility. I do this podcast not to preach, not to come across that I am the most perfect leader in the world, because I am not. I do this because I have learned many lessons through my leadership journey, and I really want to share those lessons that I've learned. I also want to hear back from many of you, right? I want to understand how I can continue being the best version of myself, at the same time helping others become the best leader they can possibly be, through some of the mistakes that I have learned through my leadership journey. We're going to continue our conversation about radical candor and how it can make such an impact in the culture within our organizations. I've learned a lot about radical candor I will be honest, making a lot of mistakes of being in the quadrants that we discussed last time that are less impactful, quadrants such as obnoxious aggression and ruinous empathy. What I'll tell you is I have been on a journey myself that has continuously helped me evolve as a leader. But unfortunately, on that journey, I make mistakes all of the time. The journey that I have been on has been a continuous evolution, and it's almost frustrating. I don't know if anybody else out there has felt frustration in uh, with their own leadership styles, with their teams, with not being able to produce results, and so on and so forth. And what I will tell you is the one thing that I have noticed that if you're not careful, that journey can take you through all four quadrants of what we call the radical candor quadrants, right? So this last year has been probably one of the most difficult years of my leadership journey. I have had to essentially battle many, many challenges. It seems like every time I'm turning around, I'm battling something else, which is great, right? Like, I think that part of what makes us strong leaders is having grit and being able to learn through challenge, being able to handle change as it comes, and be able to lead our teams through that. At the same time, you can find yourself being pulled in different quadrants of the what we call the radical candor spectrum. One thing I realized was that as I was having to rebuild my entire leadership team this past year, I really wanted to ensure that I was building a culture of empowerment within the leadership structure. Now, if you go back or if I go back and I speak to uh, my strengths and I really tie those to the strengths identified through the Clifton Strength Finder. If you've never done it, I highly recommend. It does cost a little bit of cash. I think it's like $20 to at least get your top 5 strengths, but I highly recommend it because it helps you identify not just your strengths, but also how those strengths can pull you into what is called a basement. And uh, one of my top 5 strengths that has shown through over the last 15 years when I've taken this assessment is I'm a restorative leader. And essentially, that means I'm a fix it guy. I love to fix things. And if I'm not careful, that allows me to get into a place of micromanagement, of a place where I take over. And that does not produce a culture that is empowering at all. If you have a leader that is consistently micromanaging your work in the direction you need to go. I do, at my heart, truly believe, and belief is another one of my strengths. I truly believe that if the vision is set, we need to let our teams take that vision and apply the direction and build the strategy that they can dig into and get behind to let that vision come to fruition. The thing that I've personally struggled with is that uh, as I have wanted to build a team that is empowered, I have tried to be, I don't want to say hands off, but I have tried to be extremely gracious and provide as much flexibility and as much freedom as I can within the leadership strategies to make an impact in overall performance. At times, I have been more flexible around the learning curves that are needed to ensure that we are identifying opportunities to make an impact. Now, I have learned that if I am not, as the leader of my organization, if I am not careful, and it's not about guidance, but I am not careful with accountability because I am so heartfelt about wanting my leaders to have empowerment in their work, that can really very quickly lead down a path of ruinous empathy. And so being able to identify when it's time to say, okay, I've given you an opportunity. I want you to succeed. I have given you the tools. I have built tools for you to make it easy for you. And you're choosing not to use those tools and execute the strategy that you need to make an impact on your team to be able to develop a culture of performance. Then I'm going to have to hold you accountable. When is the right time to say, whoa, hold on? Hold on. It's accountability time. I have to say humbly that it's probably one of the most difficult decisions you need to identify. Um, there is an exact point that is the preface. And if you miss that point, you will delay further evolution, you will delay further progress. And I have to admit, I think I may have missed that point this last go around. Now we're on a course of correction and we're going to get this right. But identifying through having conversations of radical candor and identifying where there's a point in time that enough is extremely important. So, unfortunately, I did identify it. I did identify it where I had to say, enough is enough. We're not seeing the progress we need to. I'm going to have to hold you accountable in this area, not because I don't care about you, but I want you to be successful. I want our teams to be successful. But you have not taken action against the strategy and the expectation that I've given you. So now we're going to take a step back. And yes, we're going to document this, but we're going to take a step back and I'm going to give you a step by step detail of how you're going to get there. Now, I say humble a lot in this episode. I'm going to practice humility and I'm just going to be real with you. I absolutely do not enjoy making any team member feel like they have failed. I do not want I want them to have the mentality that they are winners. And when you have to take a step back and say, no, you're not winning because you're not executing. We need to follow steps A, B, and C going forward. And yes, I am putting this in written documentation. It's hard because some people, and including myself, I've taken it in the past, right? Some people take documentation as a threat to lose your job. But sometimes we need that. We need to hear that to engage a little bit of emotion and to engage our personalities and to engage our intelligence to move forward. And so, how do you get to that place where it's all right to have that conversation? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And it's really about building a culture where psychological safety is very much existent, right? Where your team understands that it's okay to have a conversation and to be a part of a conversation where you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Because let's be honest, we've all heard it before. Without having some uncomfort in life, whether it's professional, whether it's personal, whether it's social, without having some uncomfort, it's hard to find growth. And you need to be able to have some uncomfort. However, within that, there needs to be a mentality or a sense that you are safe, that you're in an environment where grace exists. And I'm going to look it up here real quick, and I should have had it for you beforehand. But grace is not, hey, willy nilly, I'm going to let you do what you need to do, and I'm going to be very forgiving no matter how many mistakes you make. I'm going to ask my friend ChatGPT here. Awkward silence. Thank you. So here is the definition of grace. The general definition is elegance, poise, or refined movement. Number two, kindness and mercy, showing goodwill, forgiveness, and compassion, even when undeserved. The social etiquette is politeness and courteous behavior in interactions. And the legal term is a temporary exemption of extension, as in grace period. So let's combine all of those. There is nothing wrong, there is nothing weak about being a kind, merciful leader, being an empathetic leader. It's just when it's taken too far and you are more focused on forgiveness and being kind and not executing the direct message that's needed to move forward in improvement. I've been there. I've gotten stuck because I myself have worked for obnoxious aggressors many times in the past. And I know obnoxious aggression can be a very, it can be a roadblock for many. But at the same point in time, I have to remember that my heart is a heart that is full of grace. And if my heart is truly full of grace and is truly forgiving and cares about the individual and cares about their success and cares about the success of the organization, why wouldn't I have a truthful, honest, sometimes hard conversation with them so they're able to move forward? But at the same point in time, I have to ensure that that team member is in an environment where they do not feel attacked as we're having that discussion. And how do you do that? You have to build an environment of trust. You have to build an environment where feedback goes both ways. I, as their leader, or my leader, as my leader, cannot honestly give feedback if they're not willing to receive feedback. Number one, feedback is a gift, no matter which way it goes, and no matter how uncomfortable it is to hear. Feedback is a gift. Say it to yourself 10 times in a row until you have it memorized. So the next time somebody says, "Hey, can I give you some feedback?" you're automatically like, this person wants to give me a gift. Number two, feedback can never, ever, ever be weaponized. And what do I mean by that? Feedback cannot be something that is given in a sense of defensiveness or offensiveness. It cannot be an attack. Feedback has to have a solution behind it. If you are going to give feedback to a leader or to a team member or to a peer, have a solution to go with it. And that solution is given because you care about that individual's success. Excuse me. You care about the team's success because you yourself know that if your team members, the people that work for you, if your peers, the people that work beside you, and if your leaders, the people that work above you, are not successful, you are not successful. And that goes back to feedback is a gift. So ask for feedback, accept feedback. Even if you don't agree with it to your core, accept the feedback. And when you're given the feedback, do not immediately answer to it. You need to process it. Again, you have to create a environment where that feedback is not weaponized. Then, when you as a leader, when you as a peer, or when you as the person that is working for a leader are getting that feedback, you understand it is for your benefit to grow. Now, we've built a culture of psychological safety where feedback can go both ways. And we all understand that the feedback we're given is to help the general outcome of the team, the organization, or certain individuals. Boom, we've got it. We're there. Now that you've established trust between whoever you need to have a conversation with, then you can have that conversation. You can truly practice genuine radical candor by challenging directly, however, caring equally to move an action forward that is needed, a behavior forward that is needed. There are many organizations in the world that have practiced in putting this type of culture into the workplace. And I have to go back to the originating story of where radical candor, this subject, came from. And that was from Kim Scott herself. in her time at Google. When her leader came to her and said, I love that presentation, I love that content, but you say a lot. I know a speech coach that can help you through that because I care about you and I want you to be successful. And I think of what you have to say is extremely important. And I want to make sure it's presented with clarity. So, the challenge for us as human beings that are leaders, that are peers, that are employees, is ensuring that we understand when the people around us are trying to provide an environment of psychological safety, we can in turn ensure that when we are communicating, we are not weaponizing feedback out of defensiveness. Because it's much, much, much easier to be defensive when you are being critiqued than it is to sit back and listen and understand and get uncomfortable and grow. So I challenge all of you, and I challenge myself this next week. Let's get into some positions or some conversations that are uncomfortable, where we are forced to create a situation in which everyone feels psychologically safe to have these type of conversations. And maybe, and just maybe, we may need to ask for feedback. Think about this. Asking for feedback is no different than a little child getting on Santa's lap at Christmas time in the holiday season and saying, Santa, I want this gift. Asking for feedback is the same thing, because when we get that feedback, we see a different point of view. We see an opportunity to get uncomfortable and see ourselves from an outside view, which is impossible for us to see. So we can grow and we can evolve and we can be better. That's what we want to do every day. And we cannot do that as human beings, as imperfect as we are. We're incapable of doing that without feeling some uncomfortability and be willing to hear insights from others around us. That's all I have for you. This is a short stint this week. I appreciate you guys. Please uh, like and subscribe. I hope this continues to get better and better week by week. I am super excited as we move forward. I'm excited to share my stories, my stories of success and my stories of failure. Because if I wouldn't share both, I would be doing an injustice to this whole process, right? You cannot be a great leader if you win all the time. It may feel like you're being great, but to truly be a great leader, you have to learn to fail and pick yourself up in those failures to win the next time. Failing is okay. Making mistakes is okay. Winning is better though. So let's get out there and win every day. Let's get uncomfortable. Let's really challenge ourselves to have some radical candor conversations that's next week. And let's ask for some great gifts of feedback. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to talking to you next week. Please, again, like and subscribe. Drop some comments in there for me, what you would like to see. I really want to make this a powerful tool for anybody out there who's looking to continue to evolve in their leadership, whether that's chasing after a new leadership position, running up the ladder, right? Or even just being a strong peer leader. Because being a peer leader is just as important as being a director as being a VP, as being a president. You don't have to be in the C suite to be a leader, but you have to have the mentality. So let's go get it. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you all so very much.